The Triangle of Doom, or How Julia Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Drama. Chapter 1, in which our heroine questions her life choices. Julia MacIntyre had always believed that being beautiful was a blessing. At 19, with cascading auburn hair that caught sunlight like captured fire, emerald eyes that poets would probably write sonnets about, if poets still did that sort of thing, and the kind of figure that made people walk into lampposts, she'd lived a relatively charmed life. That is, until the Tuesday when everything went spectacularly, catastrophically wrong. It started innocently enough. Julia was sitting in her favorite coffee shop, the Caffeinated Conspiracy, which was one of those aggressively hipster establishments where the baristas had more facial hair than a 19th century philosophy department, and the coffee cost approximately the same as a small car payment. She was waiting for her boyfriend, John, and her best friend, Sarah, because she'd had the brilliant idea of introducing them properly. In retrospect, this was like introducing a lit match to a fireworks factory and expecting a polite handshake. John arrived first because he was always punctual, which was one of the 17,000 things Julia loved about him. He was absurdly handsome in that way that seemed almost unfair to other men. Square jaw, tousled dark hair, eyes the color of aged whiskey, and a smile that could probably end wars or start them depending on who was looking. He'd been Julia's boyfriend for 8 months, and she was pretty sure she was falling in love with him, though she hadn't quite worked up the courage to say it out loud yet. "Hey, beautiful," John said, kissing her forehead in that way that made her knees forget they had bones. "What's this mysterious meeting about?" "I just thought it was time you properly met Sarah," Julia said, stirring her oat milk latte with unnecessary vigor. "She's my best friend. You're my boyfriend. You should actually know each other beyond awkward waves when you're picking me up." "Makes sense," John said, though his expression suggested he was already sensing the trap, like a gazelle hearing a twig snap in the Serengeti. Sarah arrived 15 minutes late, which was early for her. Sarah Chen was beautiful in a completely different way than Julia. Sleek black hair cut in a sharp bob, dark eyes that missed nothing, and cheekbones that could cut glass. She was a physics major, devastatingly intelligent, and had been Julia's best friend since freshman orientation, when they'd bonded over their mutual hatred of icebreaker games. "Sorry I'm late," Sarah said, not sounding sorry at all. "Lab ran over." She looked at John with an expression Julia couldn't quite read. Later, Julia would realize it was the look of someone seeing something they wanted and deciding to take it. But in that moment, Julia just thought Sarah was being her usual intense self. "John, this is Sarah. Sarah, John," Julia said, gesturing between them like a game show hostess, revealing a prize neither contestant wanted. "Nice to meet you," John said, extending his hand. Sarah shook it, holding on just a fraction of a second too long. "Julia's told me so much about you. All good things, I hope." "She said you were handsome." Sarah tilted her head, appraising him like he was a painting in a museum. She undersold it, actually. Julia laughed nervously. "Sarah's very direct." "I call it efficient," Sarah said, sitting down and immediately ordering the most complicated drink the barista had probably heard all day. Why waste time with small talk when you can just say what you mean? The conversation proceeded with all the comfort of a porcupine sitting on a balloon. Sarah asked John pointed questions about his intentions toward Julia, his 5-year plan, and his views on quantum mechanics, which John gamely tried to answer despite being a business major. John looked increasingly like someone who'd signed up for coffee and accidentally ended up in a deposition. Julia tried to salvage the situation with bright, desperate energy, like someone throwing water on a fire only to realize they'd grabbed gasoline. After 45 minutes of what could generously be called aggressive socialization, John excused himself to go to the bathroom. The moment he was out of earshot, Sarah leaned forward. "Jules, I need to tell you something. If you're about to say you don't like him, I like him too much, Sarah interrupted. I think I'm in love with him. Julia laughed, because what else do you do when your best friend tells you she's in love with your boyfriend? Apparently, you laugh like a hyena that's just inhaled helium. You just met him, Julia managed. I've seen him before, when he picks you up, when we video chat and he's in the background. Jules, I've been watching him for months. Sarah grabbed Julia's hand across the table. I didn't realize what it was until I saw him just now. But I'm in love with him, and I think I might die if I don't tell him. You're not going to die, Julia said, pulling her hand back. You're being dramatic. Says the woman whose hair looks like it was styled by a romance novel cover artist. My hair is not relevant to this discussion. John returned from the bathroom, his timing impeccable in the worst possible way. What discussion? Nothing, Julia said, too loudly. A nearby patron spilled their coffee. Sarah looked at Julia with an expression that clearly said, if you don't tell him, I will. Julia looked at John, who was looking between them with growing concern. We should go, Julia announced, standing so abruptly she knocked her chair over. Things to do, places to be. Not here. Chapter 2. In which things get worse, surprisingly. The next few days were what Julia liked to call objectively terrible. Sarah was texting her constantly, long, rambling messages about the nature of love and whether it was wrong to want what your best friend had if you wanted it more. Julia's responses were variations of, yes, it is wrong, and please stop. Meanwhile, John sensed something was off. He kept asking if everything was okay, if he'd done something wrong, if Sarah had said something weird about him. Julia, who was a terrible liar, kept insisting everything was fine while exhibiting the kind of nervous tics usually reserved for criminals under police interrogation. It all came to a head on Friday night at the campus spring festival. The festival was one of those mandatory fun events where the administration tried to prove that college was about more than crushing debt and existential dread. There were food trucks, a Ferris wheel that looked concerningly rickety, and a band playing covers of songs that were popular when their parents were young. Julia had agreed to meet John there, thinking it would be a nice, normal date where nobody confessed inappropriate feelings for anyone. Sarah had not been invited, which should have been Julia's first clue that Sarah would definitely show up. Having fun? John asked, his arm around Julia's waist as they watched a remarkably untalented juggler drop his third ball. So much fun, Julia said, meaning it. With John, things were easy, comfortable. He made her laugh, and he listened when she talked about her criminology classes, and he didn't mind that she was obsessed with true crime podcasts. He was good, solid, hers. Julia closed her eyes. She knew that voice. It was the voice of poor life choices manifesting in the physical world. Sarah appeared from the crowd like a villain in a stage play, wearing a red dress that was absolutely a red dress that you wore when you had an agenda. Oh, you're both here, together. What a coincidence, Sarah said, in the tone of someone for whom this was absolutely not a coincidence. Sarah, what are you doing here? Julia asked through gritted teeth. It's a public event. I'm public. I'm allowed. Sarah turned to John. Can I borrow you for a second? Why? John asked, displaying the kind of survival instinct that had kept humans alive for millennia. I need a male perspective on something. I'm right here, Julia said. I have perspectives, multiple perspectives. It's okay, babe, John said, because he was kind and trusting and didn't realize he was about to be emotionally ambushed. I'll be right back. Julia watched them walk toward the food trucks with the sinking feeling of someone who just realized they'd forgotten to defuse a bomb. She gave them 30 seconds before following. She found them by the taco truck, where Sarah was in the middle of what could only be described as a confession of feelings. Julia caught the tail end. And I know it's crazy and I know it's wrong, but I can't stop thinking about you, and I think we have a connection, and Julia would understand because she loves me and she'd want me to be happy. Stop, John said, holding up his hand. Just stop. Julia froze behind a conveniently placed festival banner. I'm with Julia, John continued. I'm very much with Julia. I'm happy with Julia. And even if I wasn't, this, he gestured between them, this wouldn't happen. You're her best friend. But don't you feel it? Sarah pressed. The chemistry? The only thing I feel is uncomfortable, John said. Look, Sarah, I'm sure you're great, but I'm not interested. I'm sorry if Julia said something that made you think. Julia doesn't know what she has, Sarah interrupted. She takes you for granted. No, she doesn't. She barely posts about you on social media. So that means something. That means she has a life beyond Instagram, John said, his patience clearly wearing thin. I'm going to go find my girlfriends now. My girlfriend, Julia, the person I'm dating, just to be clear. He walked away, leaving Sarah standing by the taco truck with the expression of someone who'd miscalculated badly. Julia ducked behind the banner more securely, then realized she should probably go comfort her boyfriend, but also she kind of wanted to see what Sarah did next, like watching a nature documentary about poor decisions. Sarah pulled out her phone and started texting furiously. Julia's phone buzzed. It was a text from Sarah. I told him. He said no, but he's lying. I can tell he feels it too. I'm not giving up. Julia's phone buzzed again. This time it was John. Where are you? Need to talk to you about something weird that just happened. Julia's phone buzzed a third time. It was her mother. Did you floss today? Julia decided to deal with problems in order of priority and texted her mother back first. Yes, a lie. Then she texted John, coming, by the Ferris wheel. Then she texted Sarah, we need to talk. Tomorrow, my dorm, noon. Bring shame. Chapter 3, in which Julia attempts mediation. Saturday at noon found Julia sitting in her dorm room, surrounded by stress-eating evidence. 3 empty bags of chips, a concerning amount of chocolate wrappers, and a pizza box that had somehow ended up on her head at some point in the night. Her roommate, Keisha, had taken one look at the situation and announced she'd be spending the day literally anywhere else. I can't be a witness to whatever this is, Keisha had said, gesturing at Julia's general state of being. I have plausible deniability to maintain. Sarah arrived at noon exactly, which was how Julia knew she was taking this seriously. Sarah was never on time unless it mattered. Before you say anything, Sarah started, I want you to know that I've thought about this a lot. You've thought about stealing my boyfriend a lot. Great, that's reassuring. I'm not stealing him. You can't steal a person. They're not property. Sarah sat on Julia's desk chair, which was covered in clothes because Julia's organizational system was chaos, but make it fashion. Sarah, he literally told you no. He said no because he thinks he should say no. But did you see his eyes? There was conflict there. Conflict means possibility. Conflict means discomfort. He was uncomfortable because his girlfriend's best friend was hitting on him? Was it hitting on him if I was just expressing my authentic feelings? Yes, that's literally what hitting on someone means. They stared at each other across the room, best friends since they'd bonded over their mutual love of late-night pizza and their shared confusion about what adults were supposed to do. Now they were fighting over a boy, which felt both incredibly cliché and incredibly serious. Jules, Sarah said, softer now, I'm not trying to hurt you. Then stop trying to date my boyfriend. But what if he's meant to be with me? He's not. But what if he is? What if you're standing in the way of cosmic destiny? Cosmic destiny isn't a thing, and even if it was, it wouldn't override basic friendship rules. There are no rules in love. There are literally so many rules in love. Don't cheat, don't lie, don't hit on your best friend's boyfriend. These are pretty standard. Sarah stood up, pacing the small room like a caged philosopher. When I saw him, Jules, it was like everything clicked. Like suddenly I understood what all those songs and movies and books were about. You've been with him for months, and you still haven't even told him you love him. This landed like a punch, because it was true. I'm waiting for the right moment, Julia said weakly. Or you're not sure, and if you're not sure, maybe you should let someone who is sure have a chance. That's not how this works. Then how does it work? Explain it to me. Because from where I'm standing, you have this amazing guy who any person would be lucky to date, and you're treating him like he's just there, like he's a nice accessory to your life. That's not fair, Julia said, feeling tears prick her eyes. I care about John. I care about him a lot. But do you love him? The question hung in the air between them like smoke. I don't know, Julia admitted quietly. Maybe? I think so. I've never been in love before. How am I supposed to know what it feels like? Sarah's expression softened. Jules, I've been your best friend for almost 2 years. I have never seen you look at John the way you look at true crime documentaries. That's not love. That's just comfortable. Comfortable is good. Comfortable is boring. You don't get to decide that. I'm not deciding anything. I'm just saying that maybe you should think about what you actually want. And if you decide you want him, really want him, then I'll back off. But if you don't, Sarah moved toward the door. If you don't, then you can't be mad at me for trying. She left before Julia could formulate a response, which was probably for the best because Julia's response would have been something articulate like, "Arr," or possibly just throwing a pillow. Chapter 4, in which John has opinions. Julia met John that evening at the campus arboretum, which was one of those places that existed solely for couples to have important conversations in aesthetically pleasing surroundings. The sun was setting, birds were chirping, and Julia felt like she was about to throw up. "Hey," John said, kissing her cheek. "You okay? You've been weird since yesterday." Define weird. Weirder than usual, which for you is saying something. Despite everything, Julia smiled. "I need to ask you something." "Shoot." "When Sarah talked to you yesterday, at the festival, what did she say?" John's face did something complicated. "Jules, I need to know." He sighed, running a hand through his hair in that way that made him look like a male model having a crisis. "She said she had feelings for me, that we had a connection, that you wouldn't mind if she and I..." He trailed off. "If you and she what?" "You know, got together?" Julia felt her stomach drop. Hearing it out loud was different from knowing it in the abstract. "And what did you say?" "What do you think I said?" "I said no. I told her I'm with you, and I'm happy with you, and I'm not interested." He took Julia's hands. "Jules, you're my girlfriend. You're the one I want to be with. Sarah is going through something, I guess, but it's not about me. Not really. She thinks you have conflict, that you said no because you thought you should, not because you wanted to. That's insane. I said no because I meant no." He paused. "Is that what you think? That I secretly have feelings for your best friend?" "No, I don't know. Maybe?" Julia pulled her hands away, wrapping her arms around herself. "She said I don't appreciate you, that I take you for granted. Do you?" The question was gentle, but it still stung. "I don't think so," Julia said, "but maybe I do. I've never done this before. The serious relationship thing, I don't have a reference point." "Jules, look at me." She looked. His eyes were warm and concerned and entirely focused on her. "I don't need you to post about me on social media or write my name in your notebook or any of that stuff. I just need you to be honest with me. Do you want to be with me? Yes. Do you see a future with me? I think so. You think so? I don't know what the future looks like. I'm 19. Yesterday, I ate cereal for dinner and called it meal prep. Despite the seriousness of the conversation, John laughed. Fair point. I like you, Julia said, the words coming out in a rush. I like you so much it scares me sometimes. I like how you laugh at my terrible jokes, and how you bring me coffee when I'm studying, and how you never make me feel stupid for being obsessed with murder podcasts. I like that you're kind and smart, and you have that little scar on your eyebrow that you got from your brother throwing a Hot Wheels car at your face when you were 7. That's a lot of specific information. I pay attention to you. Maybe I don't show it in the ways Sarah thinks I should, but I pay attention. I know you do. John pulled her close, and Julia let herself sink into his warmth. But Jules, there's a difference between liking someone and loving them, and I need to know, do you love me? There it was, the question she'd been avoiding for months. Julia pulled back slightly to look at him. I think I might. Is that okay? That I think I might, but I'm not completely sure? It's honest, John said. I'll take honest. Do you love me? Yeah, he said simply. I do. Have for a while now. Julia felt her throat tighten. That doesn't seem fair. You loving me and me only thinking I might love you? Love isn't about fair. It's about how you feel. He tucked a strand of her ridiculous red hair behind her ear. And I can wait until you're sure. As long as while I'm waiting, you're not letting Sarah get in your head. She's my best friend. She's hitting on your boyfriend. I know, it's a complex situation. It's really not, John said. She's crossed a line, and you need to decide what you're going to do about it. Chapter 5, in which Julia makes a plan. Kind of. The thing about having a best friend who'd betrayed you was that you couldn't just stop being best friends immediately. It wasn't like breaking up with a boyfriend, where there was a clear endpoint and everyone understood the rules. Best friendship breakups were messy and undefined, and nobody wrote songs about them. Julia spent the next week avoiding Sarah, which was difficult since they had 2 classes together and lived in the same dorm complex. Sarah tried to talk to her multiple times, but Julia deployed a sophisticated strategy of pretending to be very busy and/or dead. You can't avoid her forever, Keisha pointed out on Wednesday, while Julia was hiding in their dorm room with the lights off and the door locked. Watch me. She's literally outside the door. I can hear her breathing. That could be anyone's breathing. She's calling your name. Lots of people are named Julia. She's saying, Julia MacIntyre, I know you're in there. I can see the light from your phone under the door. Julia turned off her phone. This is not healthy coping, Keisha observed. None of your suggestions are helpful. I haven't made any suggestions. Preemptive criticism. Eventually, Julia had to leave the room for things like food and hygiene, and that's when Sarah cornered her in the bathroom like a detective in a noir film. We need to talk, Sarah said, blocking the exit. I need to brush my teeth, Julia replied, which wasn't the power move she'd hoped it would be. Jules, I'm sorry. Julia paused, toothbrush halfway to her mouth. You're sorry? I'm sorry for how I approached this. I should have talked to you first before talking to John. That was wrong. What about the part where you tried to steal my boyfriend? Are you sorry for that? Sarah was quiet for a moment. I'm sorry it hurt you, but I'm not sorry for having feelings. That's not an apology. That's a non-apology. That's the kind of thing politicians say when they're caught in a scandal. I can't help how I feel. But you can help what you do about it, Julia's voice echoed off the bathroom tiles. You could have not told him. You could have dealt with your feelings privately like a normal person. But instead, you decided to blow up my relationship because you saw him first in some cosmic sense that doesn't actually mean anything. It means something to me. Well, it doesn't mean anything to him. He doesn't want you, Sarah. He wants me. The words came out harsher than Julia intended, and she saw them land on Sarah like a physical blow. For a moment, Sarah's confident facade cracked, and Julia saw something vulnerable underneath. "I know," Sarah said quietly. "I know he doesn't want me. I knew it when he said no. I've always known that people choose you over me. That's not... It's true. You're beautiful and fun and effortless, and I'm the intense friend who makes people uncomfortable. I'm the one people befriend to get close to you." "That's not why I'm friends with you," Julia said, softening despite herself. "Isn't it, though? Be honest. If we'd met and I looked like you and you looked like me, would we still be friends?" "Yes, Sarah, you're brilliant and funny, and yes, sometimes you're intense, but that's part of what I love about you. You're passionate. You care about things deeply." Julia set down her toothbrush. "Which is why this hurts so much, because you're supposed to care about me deeply, and friends don't do this to friends." Sarah's eyes were shining with tears. I know, and I hate myself for it. But Jules, for the first time in my life, I saw someone and felt that thing everyone talks about, that instant connection. And it didn't matter that he was yours, because my brain didn't care about logic. It just wanted what it wanted. Your brain needs therapy. Probably. They stood there in the bathroom, two best friends on opposite sides of a divide that felt insurmountable. "I don't know how to fix this," Julia admitted. "Neither do I. Are we even friends anymore?" "I don't know," Sarah said. "Do you want to be?" Julia thought about it. She thought about late-night study sessions and inside jokes and the way Sarah had held her hair back that time she'd gotten food poisoning from the dining hall's questionable sushi. She thought about 2 years of friendship that felt important and real. But she also thought about trust and boundaries and the fact that Sarah had looked her in the eye and essentially said, "I want what's yours, and I'm going to try to take it." "I want to be," Julia said finally, "but I don't know if I can trust you anymore." "Fair," Sarah said. "That's fair." Chapter 6, in which everything comes to a head, finally. 2 weeks passed in a state of Cold War. Julia and Sarah were civil in classes, but the warmth was gone. It was like watching a friendship die in slow motion, and Julia hated every minute of it. John was supportive, but clearly confused about why Julia was torturing herself over someone who'd actively tried to sabotage their relationship. He'd suggested, more than once, that maybe Sarah wasn't as good a friend as Julia thought she was. "People who love you don't put you in these positions," he'd said. "But maybe people who love you put you in positions where you have to figure out what you really want," Julia had replied, feeling philosophical. "Did you read that in a fortune cookie? It's possible." The situation finally exploded at the end-of-semester party at Marcus Chen's off-campus house. Marcus threw legendary parties, the kind where you either had the best night of your life or ended up with a story that started with, "So I made a series of poor choices." Julia almost didn't go, but Keisha had insisted, "You can't let this drama rule your life. Go, have fun, drink cheap beer, make mistakes, be young and stupid." "I'm already stupid. I don't need help with that." "Drink-enhanced stupid. It's different." So Julia went, wearing her favorite jeans and a top that made her red hair look even more dramatic. John met her there, looking unfairly attractive in a simple t-shirt and jeans that should not have been as appealing as they were. "You look beautiful," he said, kissing her. "You're biased. Factual." They danced, they drank, they laughed. For a few hours, Julia forgot about the Sarah situation and just enjoyed being 19 at a party with her hot boyfriend. It was nice, normal, the way things were supposed to be. And then Sarah arrived. She was wearing a dress that could only be described as a statement, her hair and makeup done with the kind of precision that suggested she'd spent hours preparing for this. She scanned the room, her eyes landing on Julia and John dancing. Julia felt the temperature drop approximately 15 degrees. "Ignore her," John said, pulling Julia closer. "She's just trying to get a reaction. It's working." Sarah made her way through the crowd, collecting a drink and positioning herself strategically by the speakers where everyone would have to see her. She looked confident and beautiful and completely unbothered, which Julia knew was an act, but was still effective. "I'm going to talk to her," Julia decided. "Bad idea." "Probably, but when has that stopped me?" Julia extracted herself from John's arms and made her way to Sarah, who watched her approach with an unreadable expression. "Nice party," Sarah said, sipping her drink. "What are you doing here?" "I was invited." "What are you doing here?" "Having fun with my boyfriend. You remember him, the guy you tried to steal?" Sarah flinched. "I didn't try to steal him. I expressed feelings. Feelings you shouldn't have expressed. Since when do we police feelings? Since they're about my boyfriend." They were yelling now, or at least speaking loudly enough that people nearby were starting to notice. Julia saw John making his way toward them through the crowd, concern written on his face. "You know what your problem is," Sarah said, her voice sharp. "You don't appreciate what you have until someone else wants it. John was just your nice, comfortable boyfriend until I showed interest. Now suddenly he's precious." "That's not true." "Isn't it? When's the last time you told him how you felt? When's the last time you actually showed him he mattered?" "I show him all the time." "By ignoring him when you're studying? By canceling dates when your schedule gets busy? By never posting about him because you're keeping your options open?" The accusations hit like punches, especially because some of them had truth in them. Julia had canceled dates. She did sometimes get so wrapped up in her own life that John became background noise. "At least I'm in a relationship with him," Julia shot back. "At least he chose me." It was a low blow, and Julia knew it the moment the words left her mouth. Sarah's face went pale, then red, then settled on a kind of cold fury. "You're right," Sarah said. "He chose you. Because that's what always happens. People always choose you, Jules. Perfect, beautiful Julia who everything comes easy to. Well, guess what? Someday, someone's going to see past the pretty hair and realize there's not much underneath." The words landed like a slap. Julia felt tears spring to her eyes, which made her angry because crying at parties was not on her list of acceptable behaviors. "Take it back," Julia said quietly. "Why? It's true." John arrived then, inserting himself between them. "Okay, that's enough. Sarah, you need to leave Jules alone." "Oh, the hero arrives," said mockingly. "Here to rescue your damsel in distress." "Here to tell you that you're out of line," John said firmly. "You're hurt, I get it, but you don't get to attack Jules because I don't have feelings for you." "How do you know you don't have feelings for me? Maybe you just haven't given us a chance." "I know because I'm in love with Julia," John said, loud enough that several people nearby turned to look. "I'm in love with her. I've been in love with her, and I'm going to keep being in love with her. And you trying to tear her down doesn't make me want you. It just makes me feel sorry for you." The party had gone quiet in their vicinity. Julia was aware of phones being raised, likely recording this for posterity and/or TikTok. Sarah looked between them, her expression crumbling. "You're both horrible," she said, her voice breaking. "I hope you're happy together." She pushed past them and out the door, leaving a wake of whispers and speculation. Julia stood there, processing what had just happened. John had said he loved her, out loud, in front of people. That was real. That was undeniable. "Did you mean that?" she asked quietly. "Every word," John said. "I'm sorry I said it like this. I wanted it to be special and private and not in front of half our class. But yeah, Jules, I love you. Have for a while." Julia felt something settle in her chest, like a puzzle piece clicking into place. She looked at John, really looked at him, and realized that Sarah had been wrong about a lot of things, but right about one. Julia had been taking him for granted, not because she didn't care, but because she'd been too scared to admit how much she cared. "I love you too," she said, and the words felt right. Terrifying, but right. "I think I have for a while, and I was just too stupid or scared to admit it." "Yeah?" "Yeah." She kissed him, and the party erupted in cheers around them, because college students were nothing if not supportive of public displays of affection that gave them something to talk about. Chapter 7, Epilogue, or the part where things get resolved-ish. The next day, Julia found Sarah sitting on a bench outside the library, looking small and miserable in a way that made Julia's heart hurt, despite everything. She sat down next to her. They didn't speak for a long moment. "I was horrible," Sarah said finally. "Yeah, you were. You were horrible too. Little bit, yeah." They sat in silence some more. "I don't know if I can forgive you yet," Julia said. "Maybe eventually, but not yet. I understand. But I also don't want to lose you completely, because despite the fact that you temporarily lost your mind and tried to steal my boyfriend, you're still important to me." Sarah looked at her, eyes red-rimmed. "Really? Really. Conditional, really. Really, with boundaries and probably some awkwardness for a while. But really. I'll take it. You're going to need therapy, though, like actual professional therapy. Already made an appointment. Good." They sat there as students passed by, some giving them curious looks, probably having seen the videos from last night's party. "For what it's worth," Sarah said, "I am happy for you. Underneath all the jealousy and insanity, I'm glad you found someone who loves you. You deserve that." "Thanks," Julia said. "And for what it's worth, you'll find that too. Someone who's actually available and who makes you feel that cosmic click thing. Just maybe check that they're single first." "Noted." Julia stood up. "I should go. I'm meeting John for lunch." "Of course you are." "Sarah?" "I'm kidding, mostly. Go, be happy. I'll work on being less insane." Julia walked away, feeling lighter than she had in weeks. She pulled out her phone and texted John. "Emergency. Need you to meet me at our coffee shop immediately." He responded instantly. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. Everything's right. Just come." 20 minutes later, they were sitting in the Caffeinated Conspiracy, which was where this whole mess had started, and now felt appropriate as a place for new beginnings. "So what's the emergency?" John asked, concerned. "I love you," Julia said. "I'm saying it again, sober, in daylight, without an audience. I love you." "You're not comfortable or convenient or any of the things Sarah said. You're extraordinary, and you make me want to be better, and I'm sorry it took me so long to say it properly." John's face broke into the kind of smile that made Julia's stomach flip. "I love you too, even though you eat an alarming amount of cheese when you're upset. It's a valid coping mechanism. It's concerning. Agree to disagree." He kissed her across the table, and Julia thought about how strange it was that a few weeks ago she'd been confused about her feelings, and now everything seemed crystal clear. Maybe that's what love triangles did. They forced you to figure out what you actually wanted, instead of just coasting along. Or maybe that was giving too much credit to unnecessary drama. Either way, Julia was happy. Sarah was getting help, John was hers and she was his, and they were sickeningly in love in a way that was probably going to annoy their friends. And if there was one thing Julia had learned from this whole experience, it was that being beautiful was nice, but being honest was better. Also, that mixing your boyfriend and your best friend required more strategy than she'd initially anticipated. But mostly the honesty thing. As they left the coffee shop hand in hand, Julia's phone buzzed. It was a text from Sarah. Saw your Instagram post. Cute couple photo. You're getting better at social media. Julia smiled and texted back, working on it, one step at a time. That's all any of us can do, Sarah replied. And really, Julia thought, that was pretty good advice for love, friendship, and life in general. One step at a time, preferably without any more triangles. The end.